Hey there, internets. So, hope everyone had a good Labor Day. I normally don't post political stuff on Labor Day, but I had some technical issues with posting my Saturday night rant and then accidentally uploaded the wrong video. Uploaded the same thing twice. But Sunday, night before Labor Day, of course, I actually finally got to watch Matt Walsh's What is a Woman? And it's a good movie and everyone needs to watch it. It's about 90 minutes. And it's not just him trolling with a sign saying, "What is a woman? Can somebody tell me?" And asking some very strange people. But he asked people it, and I'd heard this description where he'll ask a group of women. And they'll pause like, and it's like they know what they're supposed to say, or they have never even thought of it before. And there's a lot of aspects to it. But one thing they keep getting brought up is, why are you so concerned about this? Well, it's very simple. We have things, and he doesn't say this to anybody, which is one of my little critiques of it. And of course, if you're being totally objective, which is something we're going to talk about here in a minute, what objective is, he probably should have had some people that had transitioned and were happy with it. Maybe even somebody that wasn't for some of what is going on, like Blair White, where Blair White is against doing this stuff with kids. Blair White says they are happy. It's real hard for me to even say that's a she when Blair White was a man. But he doesn't talk to anybody like that. For the most part, there is somebody who's a trans wolf and is also trans female or trans masculine. I'm not sure which. But some seems to think that they're really a wolf, and that's not the case. Because what you really get down to in this movie is he keeps asking the thing, what is a woman? And he goes different places, and some of them it's very simple. He goes to an African tribe and trying to see what they think. In Kenya, and they're like, this concept of a man being made to look like a woman and calling himself a woman is bizarre to them. At some point, I think they bleep out what really gets said because it was effectively possibly a slur in their own language, because the translator's trying to make them understand. They're thinking this sounds crazy, and to the in their society, men have certain roles, women have certain roles, and there's not a lot of overlap. And going to another society, a significantly different society, was not a bad idea. But he's going through this. He talks to a clinical psychologist who says, "Hey, there should only be 1 in 30,000 to 1 in 100,000 people that is actually suffering gender dysphoria, and we have substantially higher than that." So the medical industry, of course, is not doing its job in screening the people that are saying they have gender dysphoria. And so he keeps going through this, and so finally someone are saying, "Well, what's your truth?" And he's like, he says, "Well, what's the truth of this?" And he's like, "Well, what's your truth?" He goes so far as to ask somebody, "Well, what if I said I was black?" And they literally seriously say, "Well, are you?" He's like, "No. I mean, obviously not." When an objective truth, this ends up being a real clear sign in our society of two very different sets of values. You have this relative, what's your personal truth thing, and objective truth. And I once had a friend who said, why does there have to be one truth? An older friend. We were sitting at lunch after class one day, and I got to thinking about it later, and I said, well, that's what defines it as the truth. And so I looked up on Merriam-Webster. It's very similar to dictionary.com, and I can get that on my screen, on my computer, since I record with my phone. And here's what it says for truth. true or actual state of a matter. Conformity with fact or reality. Verity. A verified or indisputable fact, proposition, principle, or the like. Mathematical truths as an example. The state or character of being true. Actuality or actual existence. The obvious or accepted fact, truism, platitude. 7. Often initial capital letter. Ideal or fundamental reality apart from and transcending perceived experience. The basic truths of life. Agreement with a standard or original. Accuracy as of position or adjustment. Honesty, sincerity, truthfulness. Archaic, fidelity or constancy. So essentially, something you can verify is what truth is. Yes, there's this spiritual thing of, you got to do this, or this is what life is about. That's not verifiable. Some things are. And are you male or female? That is something we can verify. Are you a man or a woman? When you define woman, it says, and I'll type that in, it says, an adult female person, a female employer representative, and then there's a verb version. Are you a woman? An adult female person. I add female because, of course, Merriam-Webster's tried to play games with that to try and say it's something else. And you find people throughout the movie, if they were into all this 57 genders garbage, female, relating to or being a woman or a girl. Biology, of relating to or being a person with a certain combination of sex characteristics, commonly including 2 X chromosomes in the cell nuclei, a vagina, uterus, and ovaries, and enlarged breasts developed at puberty. Of relating to or being an animal, plant, or plant structure of the sex or sexual phase that normally produces egg cells during reproduction. Of relating to a characteristic of a female person, feminine. So you have this something very clear. A woman is an adult female person, an adult who has the sex characteristics including XY chromosome. That is objective. We can say, does this have an XY chromosome? Do you have an X chromosome? XX chromosome, you're a woman. Your XY chromosome, you're a man when you are an adult. That's verifiable. And so, an idea of so this is this relative truth, objective truth. And everyone's saying, well, what's your truth? And everyone's trying to define, well, a woman knows what a woman is. A woman is a person that identifies as a woman. They're using the word to define itself. Nowhere in the dictionary do they use the word to define itself. With this word, they create a circular definition for racism, but that's them being woke. That was only in the last couple of years. But objective. As a noun, it says, what you're aiming for, but adjective, being the object or goal of one's efforts or actions, not influenced by personal feelings, interpretations, prejudice based on facts, unbiased. Intent upon or dealing with things external to the mind rather than with the thoughts or feelings as a person or book. Being the object of perception of thought, belonging to the object or thought rather than to the thinking subject, opposed to subjective. Which is to say, we're not talking about subjective truth, we're talking about objective truth. And this is the value difference. Subjective truth can be anything. Objective truth is not. And this is what really gets it down to it. If you believe in objective truth, you cannot sit there and say a woman is whatever. If you believe in objective truth, a woman is an adult female human. And, He gets down, of course it's scripted, and down to the last scene, and he says, asks his wife, what is a woman? He has him this look like, why are you asking me? Are you dumb? And she goes, an adult female human? And then she picks up a jar of pickles and says, who needs help opening this? And he opens it. So, of course, we know it's scripted. But it's completely bizarre that you can't define that. And it got even more so, his PhD professor. And comes off a little limp-wristed. He's got his legs crossed. I'm sorry, guys. I cannot sit with my legs crossed. I know some very masculine men who do, and I cannot do it. Cross my legs at the knee. It hurts on so many places, including, just getting my legs over there hurts my knee. I can't sit comfortably that way. I've tried. Okay? There's a reason some of us cannot do it. I can cross my ankles doing it now. But anyway, he's sitting here, and Matt Walsh says, because the guy who keeps wanting to end the interview, you see people end interviews with him because he wants a definition of woman, and none of them will define it. Finally, he asks this professor, who is a professor of gender studies. Now, you'd think a person who's a professor of gender studies could answer this. When he says, can you give me a definition of woman without using the word? And he goes, that's an interesting question. You're a professor. You got a PhD, and you can't give an answer to that. Define this word without using itself, because he kept saying a woman is somebody that identifies as a woman. That's not objective. And so that's his documentary is something more than just a bunch of trolling of libs or investigating how people feel about this. And there's some very powerful moments. He has a person who had transitioned from female to male at 42 and realized it was a mistake. And I will say she because I think that's how this person would want to be described now, as that, pulls up at one point her sleeve. It says, as you see all this scarring, it says, you're talking about a marginalized group having a big dollar sign on their back, and says, this is what your kids, they're trying to push on kids. So that's what that is. This is a phalloplasty, and all this scarring where they took skin to make something that appears like the male reproductive organ. Very powerful moments in that. People should watch it. But when you got PhDs and you got doctors that cannot use the word, cannot define a word without using itself, there is a problem. We are at a point in our society, if you can't use objective truth to describe something, it's lost. And society's ready to collapse. So that's my review. Everyone should see this. I don't care how you get a copy. I'd prefer, not bootlegging the copy. But show it to your friends. Just like I'm going to ask you, please share this video with your friends. Hit the like button, hit the share button, get it out to others, because my wife is a recovering liberal. A lot of us watching it, I was probably the one that was probably the longest conservative, except, maybe one other person, but probably definitely the most ideological. But it's like, this is completely bizarre, because people are using that word and saying, I just feel like a woman, so I should have access to everything that is for women. Locker rooms and bathrooms, women's only spaces, curves. Remember that, Jim? I'm not sure if they're still in operation, but it was intended so that women could go and get a workout, try and be healthy without having men oogling them from across the gym, finishing their last sets of incline press and sitting back while that woman's bent over doing rows and watching her rear. Okay, or if they're heavy, they don't have to go somewhere where they feel uncomfortable. So that's what this ultimately entailed. It was why this is so important. We separate men and women's sports purely so that we can protect women and allow them to compete within a fair environment. There's massive advantages to being born male and going through male puberty, especially in athletics. I've been a wrestler in high school. I've done martial arts for 30 years. This month, I've been an instructor I've been a certified instructor since I was 21, so that's 23 years. I'm sorry, there is massive difference when you are physically in the physicality of that. And women have gotten hurt in MMA. And don't tell me, show some example of a woman beating a man at athletic events at a high level. That is the exception to the rule. And so this is why this is important. But maybe you don't believe me. Maybe you want to try and tell me that a woman is something else. So here's the deal. For all my liberal friends, I at least need to know you. But if you're a friend of a friend, that's how you see this. If you say this isn't happening or this isn't true, or because it's verifiable or not, but you haven't watched Matt Walsh's What is a Woman, I will pay for the Daily Wire membership because we're watching it as friends. I will make dinner, your meat of your choice, because I'm not cooking anything vegetarian. And you sit here and watch it, and then we'll fire up the camera, and you can explain to me, without using the word woman to define itself, what a woman is. And you can defend this whole idea that, as a person can wake up one day and be a different gender. And because this idea goes beyond gender. It goes into so many areas of our society of, is this something or is it not? And you take it right down to where some people which might call it controversy, but the split on the Supreme Court. You have people that want to make the Constitution say whatever the hell seems convenient at the time because they want to change the definition of words and make the policy they want, or you have people that want to use the definitions as they were written, because every word has a definition when it is written down that's intended and meant, even if a word has can have many definitions, and that gives us our law. You cannot have rule of law without objective truth, without having a truth that is not influenced by personal feelings. But you do that, I'll cook, then you can explain it. But honestly, I don't think anyone's going to take me up on that one, because once you start having to acknowledge objective truth, a lot of this falls apart. But go ahead and check out Matt Walsh's What is a Woman if you haven't. And please help me out. I've gotten to 16 subscribers. Maybe I can get to 20 by the end of the month. That'd be cool. At least I could show some progress, maybe set a goal. And until then, you all take care.